All right, if everyone please stand, we'll do the pledge. Make sure your mics are on. Ready?
Yep.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Morgan Township meeting, August 23rd, 2021, 7 p.m. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Updike?
Yes?
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the Morgan Township Board of Trustee minutes dated August 9th, 2021 as written.
Second?
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Updike?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay, I entertain a motion to approve the warrants.
I'll make a motion to approve the payment listing from 8/10/2021 through 8/23/2021, payment number 565-2021 through 594-2021, warrant number 10822 through 10851. 10852 is voided, and then 10853 and 10854 for a total of $178,913.29.
Second?
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Updike?
Yes.
Motion approved.
All right, anyone from the audience tonight? Okay. Mr. Griffith for,
Chief Galloway, I'll start off with the administrative report. As he's discussed before, the Morgan Township's received the $306,292.10 that must be obligated by 2024 and spent by 2026, December 31st. In your package, you'll find an updated priority list. After Chief and I watched the exciting OTA presentation on what is allowed and not, per the webinar, Phase 1 and Phase 2 stormwater culverts and infrastructure are not included in the American Rescue Plan. I've included in your package the Category 4, which discusses it, but we also have the actual video from the webinar that Brett asked me to get ready so we can show. You want to see it now? Sure. And this is the OTA lawyers that are discussing it, which everybody's taking guidance after they've talked to Office of Budget and Management.
CARES Act, there was a lot of confusion about if we could give bonuses to safety service workers, and the general consensus was no, you could get hazard pay, but there was all this rigmarole of how it worked and when it could be applied and when it couldn't. The premium pay is designed specifically to provide payment to a lot of those, when we build a new building. Generally, it's going to be no. There has to be some kind of tie to either combating COVID or some other need that's specifically outlined in this category. So if you go, so permissible uses, the infrastructure is not just general. We're just going to emphasize that because so many of the questions that I'm getting are for general infrastructure. It has to be related to water, sewer, and broadband. And then with regard to the water infrastructure, when we first got this rule, there was kind of the assumption, myself included, that it related to just generally stormwater management. But the Treasury issues these frequently asked questions. And just last Friday, they issued an updated frequently asked question that specified that any kind of stormwater management infrastructure, it has to be related to water quality. So it has to somehow fit into the Clean Water Act. So if you just are experiencing some general flooding, that alone will not qualify. There has to be some way that it ties into clean water. And then that's where sewer comes in. Sewer is necessarily tied to clean water because if you don't have a healthy sewer system, it can contaminate water. And then broadband in general, I'll get to, but that has to do with, again, trying to even out some of these inequalities. And so you may be wondering, and I myself wondered, why would this American Rescue Plan limit infrastructure to water, sewer, and broadband? And after reading the interim rule, after reading some other rules, it appears that the mission of this package, that this influx of money, is to community improvement, and particularly to benefit low-income communities. And unclean water is a much bigger problem among low-income communities. And so Flint is probably the most common example. We know that Flint had this really horrible situation in which the pipes were eroding for a variety of reasons, and there got to be lead in the water. There's a lot of other communities that have that. They're not necessarily as high profile as Flint, but they're happening all over the country. And it's not limited to urban areas. There's a lot of low income areas that simply do not have the water infrastructure that is eroding or falling apart, but it's so expensive to fix and repair that a lot of low income rural areas are also experiencing issues with water quality. Sewer, as I mentioned, sewer ties in with that. And then broadband, we noticed that a lot during COVID, when everything was shut down and we were relying on wireless. There were a lot of communities that were left out because they did not have reliable broadband. We saw that a lot with schools. There were a lot of rural schools that a lot of their students would have to go sit in a park or a public building to try to do their schoolwork.
That's the part about moving the water. And then here's some more clarification at 53, Dale.
So is there a place that we can actually send them a question
Yes.
to be answered?
Yes, you can, and that's what these are from. So what happens is the federal government, as this money rolls out, they issue frequently asked questions. And in the beginning, there's no frequently asked questions. You can kind of apply this money how you wish, because within the realm of the American Rescue Plan. Once these frequently asked questions come back from the federal government, they send them up, then they start to narrow down what you can use this from, and that's where this is from. That's how this happened, is somebody asked the right or wrong question, however you want to see it, and then they send it up to the federal government, because Office of Budget Management does not have a dog in this right now. This is a federal program, and the answers will come from them, because the auditors will be from the Office of Inspector General of the United States. The auditors would not be the state of Ohio on this ARP. So as more questions get sent up, then they start, and then once they print those, they become in essence amendments to the American Rescue Plan for what you can do. So the more specific questions you ask, the answer you may or may not want. But
I wonder if we could qualify under the watershed that we're,
well, that's right here. That's next.
that's next?
That's next.
As I indicated on Friday, the frequently asked questions specifically stated that per the EPA's overview of the Clean Water State Revolving Fund, stormwater projects must have a water quality benefit. And so I've spoken with a lot of townships who have some frustration about this, and it's not saying that you can't do stormwater management. There just has to be some kind of tie with clean water. And so it's probably going to involve some kind of coordination and cooperation with the county or with the state. You could do things like trying to figure out where watershed regions are and where riparian streams are, and how the township can maybe work with the county or contract out work to clean up those areas to reduce pollution of those areas. You can transfer funds to a water district. You'd be able to work with them or with the county. An extension of sewer is a big one throughout townships. Sewer is just cleaner in general. Septic tanks have a lot of health risks with them because they tend to fail. Flooding can cause them to fail, and then they can contaminate drinking water, whereas that risk is substantially reduced by sewer. And so again, a lot of you who may be interested in extending sewer to try to maybe eliminate the use of septic, you'd have to work with the county, but the funds could be used for that. Road repairs and upgrades, I had a lot of questions about that. Those are eligible so long as they are components of and directly related to an eligible water or sewer project. So it's not just a general go repave your road, we're replacing all these sewer lines, so we had to tear up the road, so we have to now redo the road. That's when it's eligible. So the next slide. So the Clean Water State Revolving Fund eligible projects. This is the category that's going to apply a little more broadly to townships, but for stormwater management, there's 3 general categories that are eligible. So there's non-point source of pollution, NPS controls. And so what that is, and I describe it a little bit in the next slide, but it's when drinking water becomes contaminated due to runoff. So a big source of that is large farms that use a lot of pesticides. If it's directed towards a river, now all of this contaminant from the fields are going into the river. If you're in an urban area and you have a lot of runoff from parking lots and streets and sidewalks, there's just necessarily a lot of contamination in that water. Gray infrastructure, that is probably what most of us think of when we think of water management control. It's generally concrete controls for flooding and sediment controls. And then there's green infrastructure. Green infrastructure is really the big push in all of this. And that is the idea of trying to get the water to distribute naturally rather than just redirecting it down a pipe. Another common area that these funds can be used for is landfills and contaminated sites. If you have an area where there used to be a landfill, there used to be a coal mine, and it's just kind of a blight in the township and it can't be used for anything, these funds can be used to restore that property. Okay, so non-point source of pollution. This is the first time I learned of this term. I was not familiar with it before. So I wanted to include a definition for you in case you're in the same boat I am. Non-point source of pollution is caused by rainfall or snowmelt moving over and through the ground. As the runoff moves, it picks up and carries away natural and human-made pollutants. So as I indicated, fertilizers, herbicides, and insecticides on agricultural lands and in residential areas, we all treat our lawns and flowers with all sorts of chemicals. That can be a source that runs into drinking water areas. Oil, grease, and toxic chemicals, that's probably more common in urban areas, but can also be in rural areas where maybe you have a mechanic shop or something like that where a lot of those chemicals are used. Sediment from improperly managed construction sites, salt and irrigation practices, and then bacteria and nutrients from livestock, pet waste, and other faulty septic systems. And again, the septic systems is what I was mentioning earlier. In a lot of these rural areas, septic systems are primarily used, and that's why there's a push for sewer. And that's also where you could have a tie-in with regard to stormwater management, because I've had a lot of township have issues where there's a lot of flooding in a particular area. The township can't really do anything about it because it's not affecting the road, but it is causing these people's septics to fail. And if you have that kind of documentation, that is where you could tie in stormwater management to try to direct it away from these people so that we're not posing this risk of clean water contamination due to septics failing. The next slide is an overview of the green infrastructure. As I indicated, there's really a push for this in all of the documents that were supplemented or by the Clean Water Act that were referred to in the interim rule. So green infrastructure.
115, yeah. So that's the summation, and that's how they see it. If watershed and water sources are not at risk, any diversion of stormwater would not be included. That's from the, and that just came out. We watched it last week. It came out in the FAQs on the Friday before.
So in other words, all of our culverts are not eligible for this, but we do have two things that are eligible for what I'm seeing there, and that's stream bank stabilization, because there are two different stream banks that I showed you guys that are eroding away that we could possibly go for to use this money with. One's on Howard's Creek and one's on Weaver Road. It said right there on that thing, stream bank erosions.
As long as whatever that stream goes in affects water quality. As long as you can make that, it all has to, when you get audited, and we get audited, you have to make that somehow that water goes somewhere where we're getting our drinking water. Clean Water Act, you got to speak to that. Now, what we choose to do is whatever you, at your discretion. But you just got to remember, you've got
So
to.
basically, that same culvert is that same stream where you're wanting to do that.
Okay.
Correct?
You have a stream that's eroding the roadway. It erodes in the roadway. It's eating more sediment off the bank, putting more sediment in there, drawing down. You're going to get into the oils and stuff that are under the roadway once it eats out the roadway and stuff. You're not just going and dumping concrete to fix it up. You would have to do stuff per the Clean Water Act, and that there's a whole bunch of different things that Cause you can't just go and dump stuff over the bank to stop something. So that would be, cause you're dealing with a moving body of water there, where a road culvert, that's just stormwater runoff. These creeks, those are actual running water going through it, and that's part of the Clean Water Act, is keeping those waterways clean. I see an argument with it that you could be used there, but
Well, there's
obviously
a-
someone smarter than me is gonna have to come up with a plan for this.
Isn't
but-
that a farmer's field that grades into that stream? If you, down on Howard's Creek,
Well,
right?
there's all kinds of farmer streams that,
So that's what I'm thinking, they were talking about the pesticides that would be used in those fields, they
but
could,
you'd have to, that would be a whole different gamut, cause you'd have to build some sort of retention basin for that water coming off those fields to catch that.
We ain't got
That would
enough
be a
money to
whole-
do that.
That'd be a whole different thing, and right, I mean, and you'd have to do that all up and down the stream, there's not enough money to do that. I mean, but they said eroding banks, you know,
Couldn't you use that same thinking on culverts that are 8 out at the bottom? They're actually undermining and they're taking sediment. That's eating out a bank also, is it not? The bottom is a
But
part
does
of a
that,
bank.
does that water flow to a body that
Well,
supplies drinking
see,
water?
Yeah.
that's the thing, is that the water flows through that, but that's not a continual running
Correct.
body of water, that's why. I
It's
think
not,
it'd
but
be-
its outlet where it dumps is,
Well, I understand that.
all
but
water goes
still,
to a river or something eventually,
The
right?
Clean Water Act is, when you go and you have a stream that has constantly got water in it flowing, you're gonna be able to justify that a whole lot better than you will a culvert pipe. Cause a culvert pipe.
Could dry up
for-
and-
For the most part, like
Right.
right now, they're all dry.
Right.
There's no water running through
And
them at all.
that's where this FAQ came from. Somebody asked about culvert pipes. That's where this whole thing started.
Right, so I can see where that mixes that, because you're not doing any, you're just replacing a pipe that takes from one side of the road to the other. You're
But
not
if you were
doing
trying to
anything
protect drinking
fil-
water from
filter it out.
sediment,
Where if you're gonna go and a lot of these stream bank erosion things that are done because of the Clean Water Act is they're using trees that they take out out of the bank, and they tie them in to hold the dirt back, and there's all kinds of stuff like that that would justify it because of being in the body of water that's constantly flowing, that's going down, and eventually, would drain into water aquifers on down towards the Great Miami River and stuff, so you could use some justification there.
I guess that'd be a good question to see if we would qualify
yeah, I mean,
to do that.
Chief-
And then what would something like that cost? Do you have any
Well,
idea?
I have no idea on that. That's something I'm gonna have to get with the engineer's office, cause they have dealt with this sort of thing before, and.
Is
dealt
that
with
the one
Clean
that they
Water-
did on Millville Riley Road and they're still doing, they have to go back and do like soil tests and everything so many years and they have to keep,
Right there at the end of
Oh.
Cursing Road?
yeah, that was a nightmare from what they told me.
where's the second one at, Rob, besides Howard's Creek?
Weaver Road?
Weaver. I'm just making notes for Chief. Okay.
Because, didn't Greg Wilkinson tell us they'd never do that again?
I don't know, that one was, I thought that was more of a state project there. I mean, the Great
I thought that
Miami-
was at, right there by Woodbine Road that comes out, Millville Riley Road. They did that section right through there. And then they had to put trees in and they did that certain thing where they,
Right, right. They had to put little-
pipeline went through and all that, and I thought they said they had to stay with that for like 10 or 20 years and do research.
That very well could be. I know what you're talking about, right, O'Reilly Millville. I was thinking about 27. The state did the same thing as what Butler County did through there, right? But that's what I'm talking about, is when they did that, they had to plant trees, they had to slope the banks back and make it more, that way it wouldn't erode so easy, and they had to plant trees and different vegetation to hold it back that would keep the soil from eroding, and
And they had to keep going back in and redoing it, if I remember right.
correct.
What did the state do on Millville Shandon there, wasn't, with all of those concrete setting things that they did? Is that similar?
I don't, no, I mean, it's the same concept, but it wasn't quite like what they did around in Millville, what they did there on 27 by Cursing Road.
Okay.
Those were more of that green, eco-friendly of what the slide there was talking about. But the one that they did on 748 wasn't one of the green projects.
All right, so let's,
Got
I
one
guess,
le-
gather information and we'll look at it and we'll come back, because we don't have to have this for
You got 3 years.
2 or 3 years.
I'll have Chief send
But I
a,
think looking into all these different possibilities,
I'll have Chief send a question up, to the OTA. And there's one last final one right here. Dale, please.
As a virus. Because going forward, you couldn't use the funds on that project if it wasn't targeted in that way.
We've also gotten some questions on past expenses, not just projects going forward. So say a township has purchased another police cruiser or an ambulance or something of that sort, has already made the purchase, would they be able to reimburse for that purchase?
Again, it has to do with whether or not the purchase itself would have been something that would have been normally covered under the CARES Act in the first place. Because again, if we are using any of these funds just to pay antecedent costs that are unrelated to the pandemic, there could be an issue there.
Okay, that was the last
Okay, I
piece.
see a few here.
That was the last piece he wanted me to show you. So,
Or need to switch back?
yes.
all right.
So right now you have the updated project list with those things removed. Also, per that OTA, salaries were removed from an allowable expense also. So we're also getting a legal opinion on whether 800 radios are allowed to be used or not. Another township got a legal opinion that said no. But I know other townships bought them with the CARES Act money last time. And they said, is it related to coronavirus? It was because of cross contamination. So Chief's going to get a legal opinion to whether radios can be purchased. So any questions on any of that besides the multiple we just opened? Also, Chief asked me to get an updated bid on the signs that you discussed at the last meeting. They're in your packets. There's been a lot of changes to signs since the last time we spoke to Stewart Signs. Stewart Signs are located in Florida. They're one of the largest providers of these type of signs in the nation. Fairfield Township has 3 of them. They do signs all over the country. It's in your packet of how many places they do. They're endorsed by most every religious organization, fraternal organization as the provider of signs. These LED signs are 5x8 with enough resolution that you could do anything. The change in them from last time is you don't have to run fiber to them anymore. They come with a lifetime Verizon modem, and you program from your tablet, phone, or computer. 24 hours, you can hit, as long as there's signal, you can hit those signs and program what you wish. Also, it brings up the question of visual pollution. They can be dimmed down, set at any time. So if sundown was at 8 o'clock, you could have it go down to 25% so it doesn't light up the whole neighborhood. and then at 6 a.m. when sunrise happens, you can take it back to 50. They have a 20-year lifespan. That's what they'll warranty, that's how long they'll supposedly last with no maintenance at all, but the bulbs are rated for 20 years. They're assembled in Florida and they arrive, and once you begin to go into production, they send up to you a foundation plan. Rob, I know that knows what you mean, with the actual bolts to attach. And so the plan is that you would have your conduit run. It needs one circuit to run it, no fiber, and then you have it set, and then it just arrives, you just drop it down and bolt it, and you make the electric connection and you're finished. The price is, they were like $19,000 3 years ago when we talked about it. They're up to $22,218 each, plus whatever cost you have to run the power. We have power at ours, you don't have it here, but, and then set the base.
And these are legal under
Yes.
the,
Yes. And you can see she did a couple things. She did a couple mock-ups, as long as you did that. So these are legal. You would communicate coronavirus information, whatever, danger, high spread, whatever you might wish to do. Where a vaccine clinic is, wear a mask, wash your hands. Long as, you have messages to that, and you're going to let the public know and communicate with the public. So there's a 3-month lead time on them right now because of the chip shortage. They just got a bunch of motherboards in. And really, that's about it on that unless you have questions.
I don't know about you guys, but I think we had visited this a couple years ago. Money was an issue.
The last picture in there is how it actually comes. And then you just set it with, she seemed to think you could do it with a back of, I don't know. She says most do. They roll it out and they just drop it on. But you'd have to have the foundation. And you get the rebar and the whole, it comes up as a unit with specifications of how to dig it and have it set. And with also the power of it. But there's no
You
more.
have to put a foundation at the front of the firehouse too. but
Yeah.
You got the electric there.
We have electric there. But the big improvement is no more fiber. Because when we talked last time, you had to run a piece of fiber out there to do the programming. That's all, that technology's all gone. And they've been in business for, I don't know how many years it said, but they pay for the lifetime modem from Verizon.
How big is that sign do you have out there now?
Rob, how big is 5 by 8? Is it? Yeah. And this would be the same size.
Because that seems like it's a fairly good size. I was
Yeah.
thinking 5 by 8.
Yeah, I
It seemed like it was a very, very large.
And this also is full color. So you can program any color in the spectrum. There's a cheaper with just red, but sometimes red's not always visually pleasing, so you can do any color.
Visible on both sides,
Yes, both sides.
How high is this then?
however you set the post, I guess.
Yeah.
Showing 8 foot,
8
8
foot.
foot high.
8 foot
Yeah,
up?
the last page gives you a real perspective. It's sitting, since you're in the business, it's sitting in a, that's the size of it.
This one? Or the-
Yeah, that's in
It's in the
ship.
crate.
In a
This.
crate. I don't know how big the trailer is,
Oh,
The dimensions.
Over here.
but the dimensions. And you can, and that's not written in stone, you can do whatever you wish for the Morgan Township. She just took that off our website as an example to provide the sales representative. That is completely up to the entity's decision on what they want that sign, the non-flashing, to be. You could design however you wish, whatever you wish.
Well, we've got a logo, right?
Yeah, I mean, you
I
can
would
send
say that would be
you can send the logo down to them, you can do
just
whatever.
like you got your logo.
Exactly.
We got this logo.
She just did something, she grabbed just to show an example, but that's completely, can be customized to whatever your desires are.
Some of these have a pedestal at the bottom. Is that an upgrade from just
Yes.
the 2 legs?
But they
Looks
have
nice.
lifetime warranty, and it's warranted from one company, the whole sign. So like the extruded aluminum of that has a lifetime warranty. If you want to get an idea of it, if you're out in that area, Fairfield Township bought 3 from them. They just got those, they're pleased with that company. But they're one of the largest manufacturers of signs in the country. They just happen to be in Florida. Service didn't seem to be an issue too. But Chief had talked to them many years ago when we decided. That's your updated.
A while ago.
So that would be.
So do we ask the question to be sure? Or do we wait since there's not that many frequently asked questions yet?
That's-
I hate to put these on order and then
Right.
them say down the road 6 months say they're not eligible and then we're stuck. We just bought them and we don't have the money to buy them.
I can have Chief ask that question too if you like.
Yeah, because we're looking at $44,436 for the
Approximately
two.
45,000.
I'll pass both those questions to send up.
Okay.
Also, guys, regarding the American Rescue Recovery Fund, do you want to amend this resolution since it says the money will come from the American Rescue Recovery Fund, doing that?
Right,
part,
yeah, we have to.
the,
Yep. Yep, that'll come out of the road fund.
But I mean,
Yep. Want to do it? Can I borrow this for a minute? Oh, I got a copy of it. Never mind. All right, I'll make a motion to amend the resolution 122-2021 about replacing culvert pipe on Alert New London Road between Cann and California Road for a cost of $4,606. The work will be done by Morgan Township Department, but the money will not come from the American Rescue Recovery Fund. It will come out of our road, what fund is that, 23, 22? Okay, the road fund, road department fund. Okay.
2031?
No, that's the salaries. It can, but the
Okay.
material's just gonna be out of a different one. There's three
Okay.
different ones that,
All right. Determined by Tina.
there you go.
There you go.
Second.
It will come out of the road fund.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, you got your second.
Okay. Mr. Brucker?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Upton?
Yes.
Motion approved.
So, should we resend our motion to approve these minutes, have that changed, and then approve these at the next meeting? No?
No, it's gonna be amend.
Just amend that
Just amend it?
resolution, yep.
Okay.
The minutes stand, I mean,
All right, just want to make sure.
And last thing from the administration report is the Ohio Department of
Get
Transportation
another
Township
here. Give me those.
Stimulus Program
These
update.
dead
The-
ones.
The checklist has been developed and briefed with Rob Brim. Chief and Rob took care of that. And there's no executive session for the administrator.
That was Croden. Is it Croden?
All right.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, fire department?
Try this.
Ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I need a motion to hire firefighter paramedic Robert Morton, effective 8/24, volunteer and part-time at $17 with a 1 year probation. There is something unique about this. Rob is a personal friend of Chief and Lieutenant Galloway's and has requested that he not report to Chief because he feels that's a conflict, which we agree. He would report directly to me as far as anything to do with him and with Tom. I would sign his time cards as I do with Lieutenant Galloway, and anything and everything pertaining to him would stop with me and go to Tom.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Brucker?
Yes.
Mr. Updike?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Motion approved.
129. 129. Thank you, Carol. COVID-19 report, you've seen it in the news. The Pfizer is now FDA approved. We are now at a high spread of transmission, including 45053. We've graduated to that. We had 4 positive cases last week alone in 45053. We're at 124.2 cases per 100,000 in the township, in the county. There's nobody who's not in high spread. Hospitalizations are up. We were at 4 a couple days ago, and they have the beds in the hallways again. So if you go to the hospital, don't expect a room anymore. You might be in a hallway. Also, something new they've started is reporting cases of children under 12, which I've never seen before. And 45053 has no children under 12 currently with COVID. It's good news. And really, everybody knows enough about that. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
When I go on the Ohio dashboard,
Mhm.
the report,
Mhm.
why is Morgan Township always blank and it gives no numbers for five?
The county report has it. That's where I get it. If you go to Butler County General Health District and look at their dashboard, it has it for Morgan Township. I believe it's because it may be a size 45053 is so small, but as of this, there's been 342 cases since the start of COVID, and there's been 4 in the last week. And then there was 4 before that week. So in August, the first 2 weeks of August, we've had 8 cases. You can't draw anything from any of the other zip codes because it doesn't incorporate just Morgan Township. But it's on the counties.
I
Yeah.
never use the county, I
Yeah.
always use the state. state.
The county does a really good, they do a really good job, and they keep expanding it, and you can see the number of vaccines administered, but this, cases under age of 17 by zip code, just started. And wherever 45011 is, they have a lot of kids with, COVID right now. They have 59.
That's Hamilton.
Yeah, Hamilton, yeah. But 45053 has none. And it says it's below the threshold to release, so I think we have to have a lot because we have our N number is so small. We have such a small population of 45053. So we also got our first from the County Health Board about booster shots. It looks like we're going to be administering those again for our partner departments and us again. They think that's probably going to be the best way to roll that out. So we'll have a closed pod here at some point after September 20th. We're going to do Riley Township and the people in our department who got them in December and February, the second shot in February. So that's coming up. That'll be sponsored and paid and compensated for by EMA as it was before. But we'll be running that here, and then I'm pretty sure we'll run another one for law enforcement when their 6 to 8 month window comes up.
Okay.
Okay, and then I have 2 POs. The first one is to Boundtree Lateral Sim Man. You can just, it can be the Boundtree. This is, we've gone as far as we can with this without taking the class to get to the 2nd and 3rd level. We didn't buy it originally when we bought the Sim Man with CARES money, but now we want to take the class, myself, Lieutenant Browning, and Lieutenant Galloway, to really start getting scenarios locked in there, but you really have to take the class. And
Can
so
we use this American Recovery Relief money for this?
you could have at the time. Anymore, I just don't know. The chief,
Well, we bought it with CARES Act.
we did
money.
buy it, but we don't know about they didn't articulate the training. Now, the maintenance of it, I found out I can run through the State of Ohio EMS grant. So I can take care of the maintenance of it every year. But since we don't know, Chief and I just said, we'll just take it out of the fire fund.
If you're asking questions,
Yeah,
it's worth asking.
yeah. But for right now, if we could take it, because we'd like to get that training scheduled before they won't
We
let
can always reimburse it,
it
correct?
if it's
Tina,
possible.
we can always reimburse it.
I'm sure I can somehow,
Okay.
as long as we're able to use it on
Right,
that.
right. If they get verification that we can, then we can transfer. Okay. All right. So the Boundtree SimMan Simulator Programming Training for $3,624, currently coming out of Fund 2111. I'll make a motion.
Second?
Mr. Ruppert?
Yes.
Mr. Updike?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Motion approved.
The next PO I need is to the Knox Company for Wi-Fi enabled med vaults. The med vaults are what we store narcotics in. The ones we have now, we actually have to go and physically plug a PC into the program. They're old, they're not serviceable anymore, and they're having trouble taking the program. These new med vaults are Wi-Fi enabled and it's stored in the cloud. So if I need to program it, I can do it from my phone or from anywhere I can hit a Wi-Fi signal, and as long as the med vault is. 2 of them have to be completely replaced, and 1 of them, only the face has to be replaced because it's a newer med vault. So we'd like to get those up to year 2021 technology, not 2010 technology.
So is that just to access them, or is that to program them?
It's to do everything. No, just to program them. It allows us, right now, if I have a drug, if some discrepancy happens, I have to find the computer, go plug it into the actual vault, then run a log, and then print the log down.
Oh, so it tells you the inventory and then
Tells me
keeps
who's been in
track.
and out of it. Also, if we get a new employee, like when Rob Morton starts, if I gotta give him a code, I gotta go get a computer, plug it into the thing, and then
You
program
gotta
it.
do each one of them.
Each one of them. And this way, it's like the door locks. I just program it, send it to the things, and it's all good. So we're having trouble with the old ones because they're not taking, we have 1 person currently who can't get into one med vault for whatever reason. It will not take his number. And they won't help us with it because it's been sundowned. Those vaults have been sundown, so we're just gonna get the ones, there's like, buy the new med vaults, so that's what we wish to do.
All right, I'll make a motion to the Knox Company for the med vaults for $10,095.
From Fund 2111. That's right.
Is that, Yes,
Second.
looking at the wrong paper.
Second.
Mr. Updike?
Yes,
Mr. Brummer?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Motion approved.
And I have no executive session, and unless you have anything, that's it.
all right, nothing else. Mr. Brown?
I have 6 items to bring up here. First one is we have completed a culvert on Alert New London Road. It took us a day and a half to do that project. That is completely done. We will be doing some pavement repairs on Northwind and Morgan Ross in the next 2 weeks. And that'll be everything from grinding out, putting blacktop, or just using a Durapatcher. We'll also be working with Butler Rural Electric on taking down a very large tree at the intersection of Race Lane and Howard Road. The tree is dying and losing limbs. They keep falling in the road. They have not hit any cars as of yet, but the homeowner that lives on the corner states that she's always going out pulling large limbs off the roadway. So, got with Butler Rural Electric. Butler Rural is sending a contractor out to take the tree down, and we're gonna clean up all the debris and haul the logs away.
So is this, I got a call on this. It's at Howard Road near Edgewood. It's on the creek side. It's down near where Rosemeyer Roofing was.
That's not the one that
No,
I'm talking about
It's a
here.
driveway right before Rosemeyer Roofing. There's a tree. Let's see, it's a huge tree sitting on the bank with its roots exposed and leaning. It looks like maybe one good rain or two and it's gonna fall. Can you look at that one too, if you have not?
I won't be able to get Butler Rural to help me with that one, because there's no power lines around it, so
Okay,
might have to just push that one over.
all right.
If it's already got exposed roots, that might be an easy one.
Okay, let me know and then I can get back to the
That's on Howard's
Person.
Creek.
Howard's Creek. Like a few driveways up from Rosemeyer Roofing.
I know where that's at. Okay. The gutters on the 1858 building have been installed. It all looks good. We also did some work on the little building back in the back. The little walk-through door, the termites had pretty much ate that thing up to where there was nothing left. When we'd go to go in, the door would just kind of swing in the air. It was being held at the top, so Dan Hurst and myself cut out boards and put new boards in, pressure-treated boards, and rebuilt a door out of plywood and 2x4s to match what was there, or as close as we could, because a brand new door to put there was over $1,000. So we did everything for less than $40. So
Thank you.
looks like it's gonna work. So swings the way it's supposed to and all that. Reuse the old hinges and stuff, and still has kind of the old style look. I know that really doesn't have nothing to do with the 1858 building, but just kind of keep everything looking the same down there. So
Any word on the painting contractors that are gonna help us out down there?
not that I'm aware of. Chief's talked to him more than I have, and he says we're on the list, but I don't know when that is. But we at least now are ready for them for when they get there. There's new gutters and the building's ready to be painted, because we're gonna paint that shed also when they paint the 1858 building. So everything's good to go. I do need a PO to Triple D Repair for $1,043.49 for truck number 3. The starter went out on it, and when he went, he said it was all rusted and stuff, 'cause that is a 2001 model truck. The starter was just rusted to pieces, so put a new starter in it, and it needed 2 new batteries.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Updike?
Yes,
Mr. Brummer?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Motion approved.
And then the last thing
Mark, could you repeat, total price?
$1,043.49. Triple D Repair. And then the last thing I got is the county hasn't said anything about their meeting, but they sent a letter out. They're wanting us to get them the roads that we want to retrace next year and that we want estimates on. So
Speaking of retrace, why did they do Chapel and not Lehigh?
that's a good question. And I've not been given the answer yet, because I called and talked to, what's his name now? Dave Quinby. And I said, you know, we was given a bill to pay, and I says, I'm not gonna pay the bill until the striping's done. He says, well, you have to pay the bill because they did striping. I'm like, no, they didn't. Yes, they did. There is a clause in the contract that states that after, when they ground the pavement off, they had to put a hash mark every so often. That was $1,300. After they paved, they had to put hash marks. That was $1,300. So there was a bill for $2,600 for hash marks putting down the center of the road, which is what's there right now. We have to pay for that. The $7,000 that's left on the PO will be for the striping when they get to the striping, which we don't have to pay for that because they haven't done it yet. Well, I asked them, I says, well, why did they do Chapel Road and not do Lehigh Road?
They ran out
I mean,
of time. It was
all right
10:30 at night. They were
Well,
doing
I
it.
guess that's the reason why.
Yeah, they were doing it at like 10:30 at night, yeah.
I couldn't believe that.
But in a way, I'm kind of glad that they haven't, because the state had Barrett paving 129. Well, since Chapel Road was closed, all their asphalt trucks and grinding trucks were coming down North Wind and coming up that way, and they would have covered it all in black tar like they did the existing lines on North Wind and Morgan Ross. Thank God those weren't re-striped this year, or that'd have been money wasted. So
They didn't tear the new pavement up though, did they?
No. New pavement.
Because I haven't been down here lately.
It held up perfect to all the truck traffic that went on it, and there was a lot of truck traffic.
Yes.
I mean, I couldn't even begin to tell you how many dump trucks went across that, and I don't see any stress fractures, anything that looked like it did any harm to it.
Because it looks like they dropped a bunch on Morgan Ross Road up by Lehigh too, little droplets of paving and all
That
that.
was the tack that they, see, most paving companies use a trackless tack. Well, they are still using the tack that sticks to the tires of the truck. So right where they come in to stop, they're putting their brakes on, that's putting friction on the road, and it's peeling that off the tire, that tack that's stuck on their tires, and then they're making a turn, and then there's so much of it that it comes off, and that's what you're seeing there. That's why it's all covered at Lehigh and Morgan Ross. Plus also, right when they turn on to Morgan Ross off of 129, for the first 500 feet, it's all black.
Yep.
You can barely see it. I don't know if they're gonna do anything about it. I'm still trying to figure out who I need to call to ask about that. So, but I don't wanna do it just quite yet, because they still gotta put one more coat of asphalt on 129.
So they are going to build it up to the existing
Yeah.
roads where it's.
Yeah, because if you notice that all the butt joints, there's
They're
about
still
a
on
half
that.
inch,
Yep.
Oh yeah.
well, probably an inch
Right.
lower than what, it seems like it's only a half inch, but it's probably an inch lower than everything else. So they're gonna put another lift on there. So I'm gonna get with the manager from the Butler County Garage and see if he can help me figure out who I need to talk to about them retracing Lehigh and North Wind, or not Lehigh, Morgan Ross and North Wind, where they turned to go down it and got the blacktop on the center lines.
All right. Anything else, Rob?
That's it.
Okay, Mr. Marshall.
Okay. Let's start off with a discussion and hopefully pass the resolution prohibiting medical marijuana in Morgan Township. You have the resolution discussed. It is the shorter version of the original one. As I pointed out before, the very first paragraph in this resolution will cover us for anything else, because it refers to Ohio Revised Code section 3796.29, and it gives the Board of Township Trustees that they can adopt the resolution to prohibit. Okay, and everything else. Would like a reading of it, and then a discussion if you would, and then passing, okay? My primary reason for this is that over the past 2 working days, I've had 2 inquiries as to the allowability of medical marijuana dispensaries.
Dispensaries?
In the township, okay?
Any discussion on growing, or is it only dispensing?
Just dispensing. But this covers both growing and dispensing. If you read, Section 1, Section 2 does the, it talks about cultivation, the processing, everything else. Shall I read the resolution, or do you, one of you need to read it?
Read it. You ready to go with it? or
I'm
do we
ready to
need
go.
any discussion? Jeff, you okay
No,
with it?
I'm good.
All right. I'll make a resolution for prohibiting the establishment and operation of medical marijuana cultivation, processing, and retail dispensaries in Morgan Township. Whereas Ohio Revised Code Section 3796.29 provides that a Board of Township Trustees may adopt a resolution to prohibit or limit the number of medical marijuana cultivators, processors, and dispensaries within the limits of the township. And whereas the Board of Township Trustees of Morgan Township takes legislative notice that the use, possession, cultivation, distribution, and sale of marijuana, whether for medical or recreational use, remains illegal under the Controlled Substance Act, codified at 21 U.S.C. Section 841. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Township Trustees of Morgan Township, Butler County, Ohio, that Section 1, for the protection of the health, safety, and welfare of the residents of Morgan Township, the cultivation, the processing, and dispensing at retail of medical marijuana shall not be permitted at any location within the limits of the unincorporated area of Morgan Township, Butler County, and Section 2, for the protection of the health, safety, and welfare of the residents of Morgan Township, the cultivation, the processing, and the dispensing at retail of medical marijuana are each prohibited within the limits of the unincorporated area of Morgan Township, Butler County. And Section 3, the board finds and determines that all formal actions of this board concerning and relating to the passage of this resolution were adopted in open meetings of the board, and that the deliberation of this board and any committee that resulted in those formal actions were in meetings open to the public in compliance with all legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Second?
Any discussion? Okay, roll call.
Mr. Brooker?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Updike?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay,
What's that
thank you.
resolution?
Zoning certificates.
Let Carol give you the resolution number on that.
Oh.
133,
Okay,
2021.
thank you.
Okay. Zoning certificates, only 2 issued between the 2 weeks between meetings, so the 9th to today, both for new construction. One at 7550 Cincinnati Brookville Road. It will be a 3,600 square foot new home based on barn-dominium style. Then Mr. Branditz over here is going to be building a new home at 7762 Schraden. And those were the 2 certificates for the period of time. Violations, you have a small copy, I think, today. It's probably hard to read. I printed it out without putting it back to the larger paper. A letter was sent to 5265 Lehigh Road for inoperable vehicles, refuse, and debris. This is just down from 5309. It's about 4 houses down as you're going east on Lehigh. A letter was also sent to 4837 Cincinnati Brookville Road, and that's the 2 vehicles that are sitting in the right-of-way at 126 there, just before, as you're going west on 126, east on 126, excuse me, I'll get my directions right, just before you get to the old St. Al's Church. Okay, and I don't know why, where this came from, but we received the fine from Area 1 Court for 3872 Schomling Avenue, as I sent you in an email. $100, a lot of work to get that $100, but I feel somewhat exonerated in a way of making sure that, that the system will work, okay? So a lot more going on to there. The biggest thing I've been doing is the Land Use Steering Committee, because it's about ready to ramp up here. The committee will be meeting here in the administration building this Thursday, August 26th at 7 p.m., and the public is invited, okay? You're invited to come in and sit and listen and watch. The topics for this meeting are going to be the first survey results, and I'm going to show you 3 things for it. Brett, if you would, switch it over. This was question number 1, and we've turned it into a word cloud. The larger of the words that are printed in bolder type and everything else are the words that stood out the most throughout all of it. It's just one of the very easiest ones to do in terms of it, because it was asking for just one word. As you can see, we've got a couple of responses where there was more than one word, but the biggest one standing out, though, of course, rural, country, peaceful, quiet, okay? And this will even show through the next one. This one was the question number 3, and it said, please rank the topics and how important they are to you, with 1 being most important and 8 being the least important. As you can see at the bottom, the one standing out the most is preservation of the rural character. Over the next few meetings, we're going to be defining that rural character. It's going to be very important. Because we will begin working closely with some students from Miami University's GIS class on all our needed maps that we will be doing, with a goal to have an interactive GIS map for use in the future, and so that people even outside of Morgan Township could use it and see it. Okay, that's our goal there, to put that in along with the idea that that it will be in a printed matter. The maps will be in a printed matter, but also to be able to manipulate the township zoning map and then overlay it with flooding or characters in blue filled streams, water, etc., that can be happening. The last thing I will show you here is how long have you lived in the township? And it's kind of interesting to note that right now our population is falling within the 6 to 25 years of having lived in the township. It's not necessarily significant, but it's just interesting. It lies to the fact that as we will be discussing this on Thursday night with more detail and all questions, because the OKI facilitator that we're using has been analyzing these as well. This is something I did on my own, just to show you guys and see that we are moving. It's going to take a while, but you know that, okay? Any questions there?
I just got one question. How many, I know you told us a couple weeks ago, how many people responded to this?
Oh, all total from the Survey Monkey, we had a total of 261. And then we had 23 overall handwritten ones, which brings it to 284 people.
Great.
Andy and Travis have both told me that that's kind of like phenomenal for the small area that we live and the population that would be drawing from. The biggest thing that happened was placing it up onto the fire department's thing, and since then, Jeff has put up the Morgan Township, Ohio Facebook piece, and future surveys will go out on it, as well as some other zoning information. I think that's a really neat thing to do, and I'm going to pull it up here and hopefully show everybody what actually looks like in terms of that, but I should have had that ready, but I didn't. Forgive me.
And we're up to over 700 already followers in 2 weeks.
Mhm.
So it's doing pretty well. And there's questions coming back, so I got a little more editing to do. I have a new picture to put up tomorrow.
But as you can see, it is ready. We're getting responses and everything else. He gave me administrative permission today so that I can begin putting things up there as well.
And one thing, too, that came out of the last meeting when Darrell Huff was here talking about his granddaughter that won the Showman of Showman at the Butler County Fair. We did put that up, and there's over 320 something.
There it is.
Yep.
There it is right there.
The amazing thing was the biggest one was your little advertiser thing. That had more hits than anything that for the last
All
2
about the
weeks.
flyers.
The Flyers had the number 1, and that was number 2.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty effective, and, because we didn't have a sign to put that up, and I think it probably got more views here than what it would have on Cincinnati Brookville, people going 60 miles an hour. So.
Okay. Anything else about, okay. Number 5, our zoning commission will meet on September the 1st here in the admin building at 7 p.m. Okay. Public is, of course, always invited. We will be discussing some small wording amendments to the resolution that we have come across in terms of some issues that could crop up if we don't do the repair of or amend the statutes as they stand right now. And also, we will probably be adding in within the business sections, at least, this idea of no medical marijuana dispensaries as well, just to strengthen that resolve that we just passed. And the last thing I have tonight is community news. I received a call from Clayton Homes concerning a property at 7580 Bay Road. And the caller asked, are manufactured homes allowed on an undeveloped lot in the township? Well, first of all, you got to define what a manufactured home is. If it's a single mobile home, no. If it's a double-wide mobile home, no. If it is a modular home, yes, they can be placed on there. Why? Because the structure and the build of both of the mobile homes is not as solid or as easy to be damaged, even though any of them could be strapped and put onto a concrete base, all right? It's just that the zoning commission feels that a modular home is the only allowable thing to go on in terms of a stick house. It represents more of a stick house and can be approved and to live in from the Butler County as a stick home and taxed that way, all right? So we follow that rule. I took trying 42 minutes today to talk to some gentleman about that very same thing in terms of allowing certain things on it. Because he wanted to put a mobile home back onto 6228 Cincinnati Brookville Road, which was where the old mobile home was that you had removed, Brett, and down there too as well, and the property just wouldn't handle it. And there's a lot more issues down there than just the fact he wanted to put a mobile home on it because of septic and clearing of the property and everything else. And so, okay. But I said no to all of that in terms of that. And we're going to be looking at that inside to make sure that we have that clearly stated. I believe we do. I can't quote the particular resolution number at this point, but I know we have it stated, okay? And I don't need an executive session tonight either.
Okay. All right, Mrs. Cox. All right, let
Yeah,
me change
you
that
can
back real quick.
This is intimidating. Can you hear me okay, Carol? No, is this even on?
All right, we're back on.
It's on. Okay. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna start with my bottom one. The trustees received a copy of the LCNB depository agreement. Since we are going to retain that service, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the LCNB depository agreement for the next 2 years.
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Updike?
Yes?
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Brucker?
Hold on.
Motion approved. Okay. Also, I would like approval for a PO to Time Warner Cable in the amount of $975, which should cover the remainder of 2021 for cable service located at the firehouse.
Motion.
Second.
Who wants that?
I did.
Okay, Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Updike?
Yes.
Mr. Brucker?
Yes.
Motion approved. Connie wanted me to read this little statement from her. It's regarding the audit for 2019 and 2020. The auditor found a problem with how we process the payroll withholding for the employee payment of the health insurance premium. However, she could not tell us how to do it correctly. Connie has spoken with Local Government Services, which is a division of this Auditor of State's office, for direction. They are working on a solution for this problem, but will probably not have any information for us until the week of August 30th. When we have the solution, we will bring it to the Board of Trustees.
Okay.
That's all I
Okay.
have.
Alrighty, thank you.
I have nothing for tonight.
Alrighty, Mr. Brucker.
I already talked about the tree on Howard's Creek that I got a call on. The other issue I want to bring up is some concerns around the community center and setting up the tables. In the past, it never was an issue because we had Jenny Likens doing the cleaning down there, and Jenny just took it upon herself to set up the tables and the chairs, and actually call the people that were renting to see how they wanted it set up. She was doing that unbeknownst, it wasn't part of her duties, she just did it. Well, after she left, we got a new cleaning person, and we have Judy who opens the doors. And I don't mean any disrespect, but both of them are older, and they just don't feel comfortable or physically able to move the tables and chairs. So it comes down to, Judy said, well, what if we just have them, the renters, do it? And after we talked about that, she brought up a good point that we may have some liability there if a table falls on somebody, or somebody pulls their back, or something happens. So I was always under the impression that every time I went down there were tables and chairs set up, and then people would come and just scoot them the way they wanted them arranged for their event. But the last couple times I've been down there, the front room never has any tables or anything in it. So I know Judy has called on Rob a couple of times to him go down and set up the tables and chairs, and I don't know that that's really his job, or Mark's, or any of the road department's responsibility to do that. So I just wanted to bring it to the board and see what do we want to do. My suggestion is, let's set up a set number of chairs and tables in each room, and I don't think it's much of a liability. It could be a liability, but as much of a liability with people sliding in them to make like a square, as opposed to rows of tables, or however they want to. But again, I think it's worth a discussion.
That was gonna be my suggestion, is we set up X amount of tables in the front, set up X amount of tables in the front, X amount of tables in the back, and they move them however they want them. If they want them taken down, then they just move them off to the side, or whatever they want to do.
I'm good with that.
I mean, the only reason we would take those tables down is to clean the floor, or wipe it, or wax it. So sounds good to me.
We'll try that and see how it works.
Another issue that Judy and I talked about is all the extra tables are leaned up against the wall, and I have not seen it happen, but apparently Judy has seen it happen, where some young kids were playing on those tables, slid and fell down, and no kids got hurt, but that is a possibility, so.
You wanna
And
get
we
a
really
table
don't-
rack?
And we don't have no place to put a table rack.
Just leave it in there with the tables on it. Ones that I guess you slide in where it can't fall.
I guess we could do that.
Just
I've
an
got one
idea.
I got one for the round tables, but I don't have one, because most of them that I've seen for the rectangular tables are where you just lay flat on, you stack them up and it wheels around.
So how many tables do we have excess if we were to put tables in in both rooms?
Well, like the front room, I don't know how, let's see, there was 10 tables set up in the front room. I had 8 set up for people to sit at and 2 set up for food. That was all the tables that were in the front room. And I think 10 tables left in the front room is a good number to leave up there.
Okay.
I'm not for sure how many are in the back.
If we set them all up and just the ones that we didn't have set up in the middle of the room with the chairs around, put around the perimeter, so everything's set up so we don't have, I mean, we shouldn't have a ton of tables that aren't set up that we need to buy the racks for, I don't think.
Right.
And then we could put extra tables like in maybe that storage room or something, that if we have over, more than what we can fit in the rooms, then if something big comes up, we can pull them out of there, but that would be a special occasion.
Right.
I say we try this, see if it works. If it don't work, we'll go back to the drawing board.
Okay. All right, I will let, can you set them up initially?
Yep.
Okay, because I know you were down there last Friday for the Saturday
We
event.
went down Friday morning and set all them up. So.
Yeah. So they should still be set up, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right,
So I was down
I will
there.
let Judy and Janice know that that's our plan. We're just gonna leave things set up and and I will notify renters of both rooms that they can move the tables where they want to, but don't take any tables down.
So with that being said, there'd be no need to have Judy call and ask people how you want it set up and
Correct.
stuff like
Correct. Yep. I'll take care of that when we book it. All right, that's all I had.
All right, we already took care of Lenora with the bank. I had a Jeffrey Prater call, wanted to know, I guess he's working from home. His job was in Fairfield. Wanted to know whether we have a tax out here like Fairfield has a city tax.
I've responded to him already. He put it on.
So I called him, I
Question.
talked to him,
Okay.
and everything else, so that's taken care
Okay.
of. Got an email just today from Alyssa Staggs Herman from Butler Rural. I guess they are getting with Cincinnati Bell and the county proposing to spend, let's see, what was it? It's like $3,920,000 to go in the rural areas of all of Butler County to give them, I guess, where they have access to internet. And it was saying here, I'm trying to remember. There's quite a few. Here it is. They have areas addressing by the township. Fairfield Township had like residents of 283 people. Morgan Township had 306. Riley Township had 138. Oxford Township had 103. Madison Township had 400. Milford Township had 27. Wayne Township had 246. Hanover Township had 15. St. Clair Township had 249. And Ross Township had 936. So I guess they are going to meet with a couple of the other township trustees and present this with Butler Rural to try to get the money through the CARES Act at the county for Butler Rural to come in and do this. So, as far as I'm concerned, I would support that as well. I think we kind of covered the American Funds Rescue. We're going to have some questions and go back to that again and see where that is, but we have plenty of time to do that. Executive session, do we need any of that for any of these positions? Have we got any more?
It's up to you guys as to where a discussion on what we're going to do, and
I think we might be best just to have that.
That's fine.
Anybody got anything else? All right, so let me get, so at 8:15, I'll make a motion to go to executive session with number one, certain personnel matters when particularly named in the motion, to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official.
Second?
Mr. Updike?
Yes?
Mr. Brucker?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay.
Or the chief does, yeah.
All right. All right, 8:41, I'll make a motion to come out of executive session.
Second?
Mr. Updike?
Yes?
Mr. Brucker?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Anything else, guys?
Nope.
If not,
Here.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Okay, Mr. Brucker?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Updike?
Yes.
We are adjourned.